And now,
from South Africa's economic heart, this is the Sandton Times Hour with your host,
Alexander.
A warm welcome wherever you find yourself. This is the Sandton Times Hour. It's edition 243, week 20 of 2026. I'm Alexander Leitner. And if you're listening for the very first time, it'd be good to hear from you. Drop us a message on the WhatsApp lines or on the social medias, or I don't know, just an emoji. That'll do. And if you're a regular listener in Sandton, South Africa, or somewhere else around the globe, I know we've got a great listenership growing in all different parts of Africa and all different parts of the world. If you're listening online or on air, greetings to you from the skylines of Sandton. And goodness, things have gotten crisp up here. This corner of South Africa has gotten a bit cold. I don't know what your part of South Africa is looking like, or your part of the world is looking like, but certainly here, we're starting to pull out the heaters, we're starting to pull out all kinds of things to keep warm. And if you've got something warm with you, well, good for you. You're going to enjoy the next hour. Would welcome your hot tips. Do share those with the rest of us listening. If you've got some, great soup recipes or tea concoctions or anything to keep you warm, I think everybody can do with a little bit of that right now. As always, every week, I'm going to be bringing you an hour of content that is as diverse as the news and views of Sandton itself, and you hear all about it as the hour unfolds. Just got back from a gorgeous trip up to the Victoria Falls. If you have never done it, I can highly recommend it. It's magical at this time. At the moment, the Zambezi River is absolutely bursting with water, and that means that the falls are spectacular. And when I say spectacular, if you stand and watch them from different lookout points, it's like you're having a baptism of the Zambezi River. It is honestly a world wonder on all fronts. So do yourself a favor. It's a 90-minute flight. I mean, it's closer than Johannesburg to Cape Town. And you got a South African passport, well, then you don't need a visa, which is great. And with it being Africa Month or Africa Day Month, I'm going to be taking a closer look at visiting our neighbors later on in May. So stick around for that, and I'll show you some of my experiences and insights and some of the things you might want to check out when you're up at the Victoria Falls. I've been thinking about it. Certainly just one of those places you have to go and visit. It's Mother's Day in South Africa, so to all those bold, beautiful, and brilliant mothers, including my own, who are listening, happy Mother's Day, and thank you for all you do for your children, your families, and your communities. And it can't be said enough for how much of a role a mother has to play in everyone's life, and I do hope you've managed to spend the day in just the way you want to spend it. Might be something intimate, it might be being spoilt at the spa, going for a lunch, or maybe just spending time with your kids, your family, your friends, and having them do all the fussing for a day. Well, what's coming up in the next hour? In a bit, we kick things off with a bit of motoring on our Sandton Drive feature as we take a look at the Simola Hillclimb that took place in Niza. That's coming up shortly. Then, South Africa was ahead of the curve when it comes to opening a designer coffee shop in Sandton, and it's not what you expect it to be. I'll be finding out a little bit more for all of us. As always, I'll then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to take a look at all things entertainment and what to watch this week. And finally, I take a look at a summit focused on residential property, on developments and construction in South Africa. It's going to be taking place in Sandton. I'm going to be finding out a little bit more, so stick around for that. As always, a promising hour up ahead, but I do love to hear from you, and maybe we get a chance to share some of your feedback on the show in the coming weeks. So send through your questions, comments, and feedback, and you can do so by emailing editor@sandtontimes.co.za. And bear in mind, there's a lot of email that comes through, so we'll try and work through it as soon and as fast as possible and try and respond to as many as we can. Then social media @Sandton Times on your preferred social media platform. WhatsApp is 084 Sandton, 084 726 3866. That's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp line. And then, of course, the website, sandtontimes.co.za. Go check it out. And if you're not part of the growing podcast community in the digital world, well, be sure to subscribe to the Sandton Times Hour on all major platforms. And it's free. And you can catch up on some previous interviews, maybe some content you missed, or maybe you want to re-listen to some of it. And I encourage you to like, share, and subscribe on your preferred platform.
Winner of the 2025 Telkom Radio Awards, Best Talk Show.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.
Right, time for a quick break on the Sandton Times Hour on SAFM 104 to 107, wherever you are in the country. And stay right where you are. We'll be taking a look at the Simola Hillclimb on this week's Sandton Drive.
Connect with the Sandton Times.
Email editor@sandtontimes.co.za.
In the heart of Sandton in Johannesburg, Max Serviced Offices offers a smarter way of renting fully furnished offices with high-speed internet and professional meeting spaces all ready from day one. With flexible packages to suit startups, freelancers and growing teams, Max makes it easy to scale your business without stress. And with no hidden fees, what you see is exactly what you get. The reviews say it all. Businesses trust Max to deliver quality, convenience, and results. Visit maxoffices.co.za.
And we're back.
The Sandton Times Hour continues.
All right, a change of pace this week as our motoring segment takes its focus off actual car models and onto an event featuring fast cars. The 16th edition of the Simola Hillclimb once again delivered an exceptional showcase of performance, energy and excitement from the 1st to the 3rd of May 2026 down in Knysna. And with the 2026 King of the Hill champions crowned after 2 intense days of motoring competition. The event was enjoyed by thousands of enthusiastic spectators who made the most of the perfect weather and the unrivaled atmosphere that is a hallmark of South Africa's premier motoring and motorsport lifestyle event. Here to chat to me about this Simola Hill Climb on the Garden Route is Sean Nurse, motoring editor of AutoTrader South Africa, and great to have you back on Sandton Drive on the Sandton Times Hour again, Sean.
Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Sean, let's talk about the Simola Hill Climb. What exactly is this event for a lot of people who've probably never even heard of it?
So it's basically a competitive motorsports event where people don't actually race against each other like in Formula One or traditional circuit racing. It's basically an old hotel access road that they've turned into a racetrack for the weekend and obviously made it a bit safer with all the requisites, FIA regulations, etc. and stuff. But you go up the hill according to which class you compete in, and you set a time, and that time determines how well you do, whether you make the podium or etc., etc. So it's not racing against each other, it's more racing against the clock for a position.
So it's the 16th edition, so this has been going for quite some time. How did this entire event start, given that you've just told us that this is an old hotel access road?
So hill climbs traditionally, it's quite a thing internationally. I think a lot of petrol heads sort of drive up a road. Maybe they're going to a golf resort. They've just finished their 18 holes and they go, I think this would actually be a pretty cool road to race up. And they maybe sent a rental car up there and thought, yeah, we got something here. So I think when they realized that that road to access the Simola estate was actually quite entertaining to drive, they thought, okay, let's cordon off 2 kilometers or so of this once a year, and we'll send the craziest cars you've ever seen up there in different categories, and we'll crown King of the Hill and say, you are the fastest person up this particular stretch of road for that year. So I think that's kind of how hill climbs came to be. And I think for Simola, they obviously just realized this is a fantastic piece of road, and the community around the area was willing to allow them to use it for one weekend of every year.
It looks like a really big event. There's certainly a lot of competitors involved. How is this entire thing structured? Do I just come along because I've got a Porsche or a Mercedes-Benz AMG and I just take a chance at it? Or is this a little bit more involved? Is this a bit more for the pros?
So there's a lot of average Joes like you and me that compete. You obviously have to apply to go up and race up the hill. There are limited slots. So you can apply to race in your own vehicle if you want to. There's a road car category, so we could take whatever we own up the hill if obviously they approve of you driving up the hill or you get the slots. Fridays, they've got a classic car category where all of the old cars go up the hill. It's magnificent to see. And then there's, of course, a race car category where you see these insane hill climb monsters that have got an enormous front spoiler, rear spoiler, crazy turbocharged engines making thousands of horsepower, sending it up the hill. So it's really an eclectic mix of cars going up this hill. It's a great event, and I think it's great for the Western Cape. It's really good for motorsports in that area, and it's great for the locals. I think they look forward to it in the Garden Route every year. It's kind of their premier automotive event. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year because I just get to go down there with like-minded people who love cars, and we just watch crazy cars send it up the hill, and if we're lucky, we get a chance to drive up the hill as well.
This is really for people who understand speed, but also know how to handle a car around this stretch of road.
Absolutely. Motorsports is a an inherently dangerous activity. So there's always accidents. I think the organizers this year did as much as they could to improve safety and to make sure that everything went about smoothly. They resurfaced a portion of the track to make it less bumpy. But at the end of the day, it's motorsports. There is always a risk involved, and that's why it is so coveted globally, because people are putting their lives on the line quite literally to set a time. That's how passionate they are about cars and about racing.
Apart from just watching all the fun unfold, did you have a chance to get behind the steering wheel and test your own driving skills?
I did. So I've competed at the Hillclimb twice in my life, very fortunately. But this weekend, the guys at AMG offered me a C63 SE Performance, and I was giving passenger rides. So it was a little bit of sharing the love. So in between the really fast guys, they had me driving patrons up the hill in a sort of demonstration run in the C63. So I think it was 16 or 17 runs over the course of the weekend up the hill, over 50 people that I got to take in the car. And then there was obviously 2 other AMGs. So there was, well over 150 people had an opportunity to go up the hill throughout the weekend. And it was just a great experience. There was a couple of father and son pairings, a few families that came up in the car with me. And I just hope that in some way, shape or form, they left the experience with an appreciation for motorsports and the event. And hopefully there's a few more fans of motorsports in South Africa. That was really the point of the exercise.
Motoring name Clint Weston. He earned a back-to-back road car and supercar King of the Hill title. And he set a new class record. So he really sort of took the main prize, did he?
Absolutely. In the road car category, he set a new record and he won overall. It was a very tense competition the entire weekend. The Germans racing against each other, BMW versus Mercedes, very tense. Mercedes came out on top in this particular instance with Clint driving. He's a phenomenal driver, very experienced. He runs the AMG Academy, and he was driving a fantastic car, the GT63. So just an epic car for that, and a new record for him. So something for everybody to aspire to next year. So really awesome to watch. Absolute commitment and dedication it takes to do that up that hill. He's a brave man, that's for sure.
Talking about next year, the event is already set for the 29th of April to the 2nd of May 2027. If anyone listening would like to attend the Simola Hillclimb, what are some of the things to bear in mind? I mean, do you have to buy tickets? I suppose it's probably a good idea to start booking your hotel accommodation soon as well.
I was going to say, the access tickets are not so much of a problem. You could probably start looking for them a few months before the event. That's not going to be a problem. It is the accommodation that I think you need to book right now, because all of the hotels in the area are consistently booked out because they are OEMs and race teams over and above spectators that are booking out these hotels. And Knysna only has so many hotels. So get your bookings done. I think it is a pilgrimage that will become an annual thing for you if you love cars, because it is just a special weekend. There's something about the atmosphere of the event that makes it special. It is the fastest hill climb in the world, which is great. So you literally get to watch some of the fastest cars you could imagine go up the hill in the fastest hill climb event of its kind in the world. And next year, a little birdie's told me that there is quite a special car that they are bringing to the event that is looking to break the overall hill climb record. So next year's probably a good year if you haven't been before to come and attend the event. It's awesome. I hope to be there. Hopefully I crack the nod, but if not, I'll make my way there in some way, shape or form.
Well, hopefully I get to be there as well. Sean, sounds like a fun event, and there you have it. You heard it here first. Something special lined up for 2027, and Sean knows he is the motoring editor at AutoTrader South Africa. It's been so good to have you on the Sandton Drive on the Sandton Times Hour.
Anytime. Amazing to be on the show. Thank you.
Time for a quick break, and more of the Sandton Times Hour right after this.
Rooted in Sandton, reaching across South Africa.
This is the Sandton Times Hour.
Greater Sandton has just claimed the global first, and it's as stylish as you can expect it. At the heart of Hyde Park Corner, one of the more upmarket shopping malls in Johannesburg, There's a debut of Marcs by Marc Jacobs, which marks the world's first permanent designer cafe from Marc Jacobs, a bold fusion of fashion, food, and forward-thinking luxury. Now, more than just a cafe, it's a concept housed within the curated Maison de space, which brings together New York energy, a Parisian twist, and a distinctly South African sensibility. From meticulously crafted goods inspired by fragrance notes to elevated brunch classics and designer-led interiors, every detail reflects the same creativity and precision you'd expect from a Marc Jacobs runway collection. To unpack the thinking behind the world-first concept, explore how it came to life in Johannesburg before anywhere else in the world, and I believe the New York store is yet to open after the one that's opened in Johannesburg. Just think about that. And also for us to discover what this means for the future of experiential dining in South Africa is Yaseera Suliman. She's the driving force behind Marcs by Marc Jacobs. And Yaseera, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's a pleasure.
Yaseera, what inspired the launch of this designer store, Marcs by Marc Jacobs, as a South African first? I know we mentioned that we have opened the store in South Africa before even the New York store opened.
Marcs was actually conceived in collaboration with Marc Jacobs International, but for us, it actually formed part of a bigger vision. Within our group, the long-term dream has always been to create South Africa's first true department store, and the cafe is one element of that broader lifestyle concept, bringing together fashion, experience, lifestyle, and hospitality in one space.
How does the cafe reflect this global identity and creative vision of Marc Jacobs within a food and lifestyle setting? Because to work with a world-renowned designer like this, there's obviously a huge expectation as to what this coffee shop should look like.
It comes down to the vision, the timing, the execution. South Africa, especially Johannesburg, has a very strong luxury market, and its growing appetite for global standards has been there. So by us actually moving quickly and being able to deliver at a world-class level, we were able to position Marcs as a pilot concept and not just another rollout.
Now, we're seeing a big international trend with designers like Ralph Lauren, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, opening up coffee shops where you can go in there, you can have coffee, you can have tiramisu that is styled in a particular pattern. You are seeing takeaway coffees branded. Why are so many of these designer brands turning into the food and coffee business and creating this experience as a new avenue?
Luxury today is no longer just about a product. It's about experience, it's about connection. A cafe kind of allows you to engage with customers in a more accessible, everyday way. It creates a longer, more meaningful way to interact with customers where they have a space that is social, it's shareable, it's actually immersive. I think it's the natural evolution of retail into something that is more lifestyle driven.
We had a chance to try some of the fare at Marcs. You had a really great breakfast menu, a nice lunch menu. There's some sweet entrapments that you can try out in terms of cakes, coffees, all of that. And I must say the quality of the food and the execution was of an exceptional level. So it wasn't just a matter of taking a sandwich, labeling it Marc Jacobs and just dishing it up. I mean, there's real quality there even without it being branded. What kind of effort went into designing the menu and sourcing the produce and making sure that each dish and each element speaks to that high expectation that you would expect from a luxury brand?
So the menu, of course, was designed in collaboration with Marc Jacobs International with some local influence from our side, just kind of to ensure that it resonates with the South African consumer. But the goal was always to bring a true New York experience to life. It was lots and lots of hard work and months of work and testing that had gone into it. Thank you for appreciating that. But you're so correct in saying that it's not just us branding something. Everything that you taste actually is flavorful. It delivers in every sense. And that comes down to us being meticulous about every single detail and trying to maintain that global standard. So down to the fact that South African cream is not good enough for an entremet, in a Marcs cafe. We import the cream from France. So we've gone as far as possible and as out of our way as possible, I could say, to make sure that you are getting the best possible experience, and it's not just branded, but it's actual quality, which of course you experience yourself.
Let's stay with the menu for just a second. You've also brought in some very interesting sort of Marc Jacobs quirks into the coffee and into the desserts, where Marc Jacobs is known to have branded his clothing, the tote bag and a lot of the other elements. And you've done the same thing with the coffees, where it's also branded according to what coffee it is or according to what cake it is, etc. What other sort of designer-inspired desserts and fragrance-inspired creations have you brought into this menu to carry through that sort of Marc Jacobs thematic into the coffee experience?
We've really driven through the Marc Jacobs brand, really translates into the menu, into the food, into the atmosphere, into everything. And the desserts are inspired by the brand's fragrances. So we've kind of taken scent and turned it into a flavor. You've experienced the entremets where you have like the New York Nights, which is very rich, it's very warm, it's very indulgent. And that's like inspired by the Perfect Intense fragrance. And each of the entremets are actually inspired by one of the fragrances, not necessarily like if it's rose flavored that it's a rose dish, not like that. It's done more in a way that if the perfume scent is like bright, playful citrus, then we've kind of brought that into an entremet. So that's how we brought in like the citrus perfect, where you have the yuzu, the lime, the mango. It's all very fresh. So we've taken the scents and how the scents deliver and translated that into food.
Based on the response and the impact you've had with Marcs by Marc Jacobs in Johannesburg, looking ahead, could you see this concept expanding further across South Africa into different cities?
So the response has been really, really strong. People are excited by something different. It's not just a cafe, it's an experience. And I think that's what's really resonating. And it's really amazing to see this. I mean, we see like these young girls dressing up, coming to the cafe. I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's not just a branded cafe like we discussed. It's more genuinely good food, great service. People keep coming back. We are seeing familiar faces. We are starting to have like regular customers, which is amazing. And obviously we would want to extend this, but it needs to be expanded in the correct way. So it's always going to be done with intention, with the correct location, making sure the execution is done at that premium world-class level. And that's the only way we'll expand.
Well, there you have it. For now, if you want to get a taste of the Marc Jacobs experience, you're going to have to come up to Joburg and make it part of your visit. And Yaseera Suliman, the driving force behind Marcs by Marc Jacobs, it's been great to chat to you, and thanks for making time to come onto the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. It's always a pleasure chatting to you.
This is where it gets interesting.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
Heading into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner, and if there's anything that sounded interesting, exciting, you wanted to get some more information but didn't manage to jot it down, well, don't worry, you can get the show notes on the website, www.sandtontimes.co.za, and there you will find this week's show notes with a detailed breakdown of what we've discussed today, as well as some additional links, further reading, contact details, and whatever else you might need. Also, don't forget you can follow the Sandton Times on social media at Sandton Times. And also make sure you use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866 with your voice notes, text messages, and whatever else media you have, and that's exclusive to the Sandton Times Hour. Right, let's dive into some entertainment for this week, and we reconnect with our entertainment commentator, Tat Wolfen. And Tat, the big movie for this week must be The Devil Wears Prada 2.
Well, of course, I think it's quite a niche product, although having said that, it seems to be quite a big niche because the industry is projecting, a good box office outcome for it.
The first Devil Wears Prada did exceptionally well.
It certainly did, and I find the backstory more interesting than the movie itself. And it's based on the book by the same name, The Devil Wears Prada, which was written by Lauren Weisberger. She had actually been assistant to Anna Wintour, who was the formidable editor of Vogue for many years until last year, and an incredibly powerful woman not only within her office, but within the entire fashion industry. Weisberger, I think she needed therapy after the time she spent working for Anna Wintour. But when she left the company, she thought, well, let me at least work out my angst and write about it. And then she realized that she could write a book about it. And of course, it became a best-selling book. But it was very interesting because Hollywood was interested in making a movie, but they were petrified of raising the ire of the great Anna Wintour. They were all running around going, oh, we'd love to make this movie, but, what if she gets cross with us, kind of thing,
Yeah.
And they also didn't want to have the brands upset with them, probably because they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to wear brands at the next Oscar Awards, and they wouldn't be able to wear the prestigious brands. So the first movie was very fraught in terms of, because they had to sort of be very careful of where they went with it. Having said that, they actually the office of this editor, of the fictional editor in the first movie, was made to look very much like the actual office of Anna Wintour. The big brands were nervous of being associated with the first movie. With the second movie now, they were all falling over their feet to get involved with it.
And she was quite a character as well. I mean, she used to always wear these sunglasses indoors, outdoors, at night, during the day. She had that sort of like iconic bob haircut, and she also had some very interesting habits. She'd wake up at 5:30 in the morning to play tennis. She'd never attend an event for longer than 20 minutes, and supposedly she always used to turn off her phone when she had lunch because she never wanted to be disturbed during lunch. So a woman with a lot of very interesting sort of quirks.
Well, I think turning off one's phone is a good idea.
Yeah.
But particularly if you're having a lunch date with someone or a meeting with someone, it's just so rude. I mean, I had a friend who'd come around to visit, and he'd be WhatsApping the whole time during the visit. And I'd say to him, are you going to engage with me or the phone? Needless to say, he's no longer my friend. But it is all about good manners. She certainly wouldn't stand for it. Yeah, she did build this whole mystique around herself, and she did make herself rather fearsome. Certainly, she became a legend for it. Would I want to be that kind of employer or manager? No. Clearly it worked for her. It also proves the power of the printed media, because she was editor of Vogue when it was one of those solid, very glossy printed magazines, right?
Yeah.
Now, today Vogue is largely online, as you know. And does anyone know who the current editor is? Does anyone know or care who she is? Because now Vogue online has to compete with all this other fashion output on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, goodness knows what, and it's just another fashion outlet. So, it's also an interesting cultural thing to see how media has shifted and how perceptions have shifted. And, if Anna Wintour had started her job this year, would she have been exactly the same legend as she has made herself to be?
Probably
I don't
not.
think so.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Some viewing for this week. And Tat Wolfen, is always good to connect with you. And let's chat again next week.
I look forward to it, Alex. Take it easy.
From Sandton skyline to South Africa's shoreline,
This is
the Sandton Times Hour.
In a property market defined by shifting demand, rising urbanization, and the constant push for smarter, more inclusive development, few platforms bring the industry together quite like the Residential Investment and Development Summit. The 4th Annual Reside Summit will be held from the 20th to the 21st of May 2026 at the Sandton Convention Centre right here in Sandton. And this year's edition once again placing the spotlight firmly on the future of housing in South Africa, from investment trends and policy shifts to innovation across the residential landscape. Now, at the centre of it all is the summit's chair, Debbie Tagg, a key driving force behind the summit and a respected voice within this sector. And with a deep understanding of the challenges and opportunities shaping residential development, Debbie has helped position Reside as a must-attend event for investors, developers, and decision-makers alike. To get some key insights for the 2026 summit, explore the conversations that matter most right now, and take a closer look at what lies ahead for South Africa's property market, Debbie Tagg joins me on the Sandton Times Hour. And Debbie, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And you make me sound amazing. I'm trying to figure out whether I have a big whip or I'm just very much, bring everyone together in this amazing ecosystem.
Debbie, I think it's because residential and development is such an important topic, but also such a complex topic in South Africa, that I think you have to have a little bit of sorcery or magic to be able to pull this all together and make it a balance.
100%. Something that really drove the whole launching of the summit 4.5 years ago was just how fragmented such an important industry is, and that there was no cohesive place to bring all the moving parts together, from the investment, because that's always where the money sits, but the making it happen, local municipality, investors, the actual bricks and mortar of development. Yeah, there's just so many moving parts to it. So 100%.
And I think the issue with having so many moving parts is then that somebody says, well, I'm not even going to attempt this because I actually don't know where to start. There's just too many pieces to it. So for the 2026 Reside Summit, what are some of the key themes that are shaping the discussions right now? What are the hot topics that you're hoping to tackle?
I'd like to say it's something left field, but I think it is topics that we deal with, but they've become hotter topics or very relevant. There's a bit of stagnation or people in limbo given what's happening around in our economy. With inflation, we're looking at just your interest rates increasing, never mind petrol, and believe it or not, that even has an effect. So investor confidence, where is it? Where is it at? Where should we be risking? So that obviously is going to be very big spotlight in a few weeks. And what are local municipalities doing around this, and how they're making it possible for development and partnerships with public and private sectors. So it's all those moving parts that, the timing of it now in May couldn't have been better planned.
When you say investor confidence, is that South African investors, or are we also looking very strongly at foreign direct investments, people coming from the outside and investing into South Africa in whatever shape or form in terms of the property space?
100%. Look, we do obviously bring more your local investors and up to your sort of institutional investors, pension funds. The banks are very involved with Reside. We do look at DFI, and then we go higher up than that. So yes, also international investors. Something that I think is quite interesting this year is we're leaning a bit heavily into the luxury space, which you would think counterintuitive given where sort of inflation and stuff is sitting, but money's there, and I think there is a lot of international investors looking within South Africa to say, well, if things are getting tighter in other parts of the world, South Africa is still a hot market to invest in.
Which emerging residential trends, be it mixed developments or co-living, are expected to feature in this year's summit? Because we're seeing quite a few things happening across the board. I mean, there's also the whole Airbnb conversation in Cape Town that's causing big waves. What is on your radar for the summit this year?
All of the above. So Airbnb, we are supported by SASTRA, which is the Airbnb Association. So believe it or not, there's another association that looks after the interests and the policies behind that. So they will be represented at Reside. In terms of the other asset classes and what's trending, multifamily is definitely the developers, big developers are putting a lot of education into it, attracting investors into that asset class, and just really trying to find that missing middle for affordable housing. So that's very much always been a big spotlight for Reside, and no difference this year. We're also looking to some of the controversial issues around student accommodation and housing. If anyone's reading what's going on in the news with NSFAS going under administration. So all of those are big topics. And I do want to lean a bit more to say again, what is government doing? We don't have Helen Ziller riding a boat at Reside, but we know she's it's that kind of concept, and I know, how can municipalities operate and make the ease of development a bit more consistent across South Africa, where we are seeing a lot of, big discrepancies depending on which areas of South Africa you're in.
Well, there you have it, the voice of Debbie Tagg. She's the chair of the Reside Summit, which is taking place later on in May this year in Sandton at the Sandton Convention Centre. Certainly a lot to be discussed when it comes to residential developments, investments into developments and residential properties. And Debbie, it's been great having you on the Sandton Times Hour. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Debbie. And Unfortunately, that's all we can do this week. It's time to wrap up the show and call it a day for the Sandton Times Hour. Feel free to send through your questions or comments on email, editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media @Sandton Times or hop onto the website, sandtontimes.co.za. Use the WhatsApp line 084-SANTON, that's 084-726-3866, and feel free to send through your voice notes, text messages, and so much more. That's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp line. And then as always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast, join the growing digital community on your preferred platform, and thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team working behind the scenes. A special thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.